at like 6:30, so I might even push our break up a little bit, and then we'll get into so that we can, chill out and watch the film. Trying to get the camera set up yet?
Yeah, trying to get that angle.
Is it working out?
Trying. Yeah, it's there.
Okay. I always want to get like a blue Yeti I can stick here and then run like OBS on my screen. But then my fear is like I worry students go like, oh, I'll just take this week off and I'll ask for the lessons next week, but then expect me to hand over like all my lectures. I kind of feel like I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a delicate balance, right?
That's why you just have it where you can only receive it if you're here. That's a good idea.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what they did to keep
But then like,
reference.
but then I have to put like DRM on it, so you can't share with somebody who did. Not bad. There's definitely an angle.
Make sure we have to be connected to the VPC or anything?
What's that?
Make sure we have to be connected to the VPC or anything?
Yeah, you get to sign in with your email. I'll only watch it one time.
Oh, no.
All right, so let's start by unlocking our background layer. So like usual, it comes in default lock. Just double click to unlock that guy. And let's fill this layer with black pixels. So you can either do an alt backspace to fill with your default foreground color. The other option is Shift F5 to bring up our fill tool. And you can just choose black there. It's one of those default options, and we're rolling. Cool. So we want to make this tire tread. Our tire tread's this is the width of our tire. And then this is going to be the top and bottom edges that revolve around the tire. Because I like a tire like a donut. So these edges are going to kind of go around, that's good, around the surface. So we want it to tile, but we don't care about tiling this direction or this direction. We want it to tile up and down. So we're going to use a couple guides to help us figure out where our sections are. And what's really nice is we only have to design a really small portion of this tread and then just copy it around a bunch of times. So let's start by going View, New Guide, View, New Guide, Orientation Vertical, and Position Type 50%. 50%. Or 1024, if you want to do the math. So View, New Guide. Do a 24 view. You already hear your stuff on that. Okay. It's just going to be a pure black and white. It's not going to be crazy. Cool. So once you got 50%, now let's do a couple more new guides. These are all going to be horizontal. So view new guide, horizontal. And the first one's going to be 25%. I apologize. I have really bad heartburn, so it's going to interrupt me talking a little bit.
Have you been through Steve's class?
What's that?
I was like, have you been through Steve's class?
Oh, yes. I like the.
Yeah. Sometimes
Do you
severe,
do that?
sometimes not.
Yeah, Daniel sucks. I don't recommend doing it. Second guide we're creating horizontally is 50%. So horizontal 50%.
First one was 50, vertical 50, and horizontal 25.
Yeah. And then we're going to do one more guide, view, new guide, horizontal 75%. So all we've done is we bisected this left and right, 50%, and then we have 1, 2, 3 divisions to give us 4 quarters. So all we have to do to make this tire work is if we just make sure that this box is repeatable, then we can just paste it around all the other boxes. Or if you want like a bigger pattern, you can say do 2 hole divisions. To start though, I'm just going to do this one right here. So I'll make a new layer. And if you look at tires, they tend to have, they kind of, if I'm just kind of mocking one out, they kind of have like some kind of grip on the outside here, right? Then they have some like lines here, straighter though. And then, they have just some like weird shapes. They're really kind of whatever. And apparently they are more or less aerodynamic. I don't know that it actually matters, but I'm sure the tire manufacturers will tell you it does. So for most of this, I'm just going to switch to my brush tool. So hit B for brush. Right click, go into my options, and size, I'll start maybe about 40 pixels, and hardness I'm going to set to 100%. So my plan is just to kind of draw different shapes, manipulate them, and then kind of paste them around, making sure we're staying, within our guides so that it's easy to repeat. So one of a quick little shortcuts, kind of interesting tool with the brush tool is if I click somewhere once, I better switch to white paint. Make sure you change your foreground to white. If I click and just one tap, leave a dot, and then hold down Shift and tap somewhere else, it draws a perfectly straight line between those 2 points. And I can do it for a bunch of shapes, or I can do whatever. So that's actually kind of nice for drawing some of these weird, more sort of abstract tread designs. And this works really kind of nice. So I think what I'll do to start is I'm just going to draw kind of like a weird trapezoid. So I'll start here, come out and go down a little bit. Come down, maybe a little straighter than that. Like that. And then I'll finish it like that. So it's not perfect. All I did is I went from point, I held down Shift click, Shift click, Shift click, Shift click, Shift click. And then I'm going to fill it in. So I'll just use my brush to paint in the rest of the shape. I want a solid white shape. We have a minute to do that. It doesn't have to be like super perfect. It's okay. We don't get it totally right. We'll transform and move this stuff around. Let's call this later when you're done drawing it out. Let's call this just call it shape 1, really. We're just gonna have like several shapes and just kind of make them interlock and then move them around. Nothing too crazy. All right, so with the shape 1, I want to kind of detail it a little bit. I kind of want to cut like a notch or something out of it. So what I'm going to do is switch to my eraser brush, my eraser tool actually, which is E. Should be E. Is that working for you? E. And again, I'm going to make sure that hardness is set to 90 or 100%. I'll bring the size down a little bit to like 15%. And I want to make sure my opacity, flow, all that stuff is set to 100%. Don't worry about smoothing. And what I'm going to do on this shape is come in here and click, and I can hold Shift and kind of just like drag out this like kind of notch shape. You guys can honestly probably like look at the bottom of your shoes to get like this protector treads or something. And then do something like this too. Come down here, kind of come at a 45. Something like that. I don't know. That's probably enough. I just use my eraser tool and just trimmed out a few pieces real quick. It's just a tiny bit of detail.
How'd you get the sharp edges for it?
So all I did was use that eraser tool. The same shift tool, the same shift trick works with this brush too. So I just clicked.
Oh, okay, okay.
Actually, you can click, if you hold shift, it goes in straight perfect line. And then I came up to where I had done that transfer, that erase, fell down, or clicked one time, shift clicked over here,
Gotcha.
shift clicked over there.
I was gonna get the diagonal part, get the straight line.
So that all looks good to me, I like it, however, it is very large. I would like to at least put like 3 of these in one of our panels. So what I wanna do, once I have this all drawn up, I'm gonna hit Control T to rig up retransform. And that's where we're going. Oh, I have a mark up there. Well, I'll do another.
Oh, I think that's when you still have your black, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna shrink this down, so I'll grab the corner handle, one of the corner handles, I'm gonna hold down Shift and Alt as I bring it in, so it scales proportionately. And like I said, I wanted to kind of fit at least maybe 3 of these, maybe 4 across, so just kind of eyeball it. That should fit at least 3 of these across, so I'll hit OK. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use some of Photoshop's alignment tools and stuff to help me make this pattern really repeatable. So I'll go back to my Move tool, and I'm going to take this shape, and I'm going to make sure I lock it to my guide so that it's halfway on it. If you use your Snap tool, oh, I didn't even have Snap on. Make sure you have your Snap on. That's under View, Snap, or Shift Control, semicolon. And what that'll lock that center point, its halfway point to your guide, hopefully. Looks like about there for me. Then what I'm going to do is hold down Alt. When I hold down Alt with my Control button, or with the Move tool, you see you get like 2 split arrows, a black and a white arrow. When you drag down now, it just makes a copy of this layer. And I'm going to go all the way to the bottom and snap it right at the halfway point there. And they should match. So like if I look at mine, I can see that the guide has just a few pixels between that and the erase part, and then down here, that matches. So that's what I'm looking for. Now what I can do, still in that Move tool, is I'm going to hold down Alt again and drag this up. I'll hold down Shift 2 so that they snap in a perfect line. And then I'll do it one more time if I have enough room. If you don't worry about it. If you can only get 3 on there, that's fine. If you can get 4, cool. It's okay if it's uneven. Yeah, I'm going to show you how to fix it. The most important thing that matters is that this one is on the halfway point and this one's on the halfway point of that guide. So don't sit there and fret about trying to make it perfect. We're going to make the computer do the work for us. Some money over there trying to get this right. Don't worry about it, man.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is over here in Layers, select all 4 of those shaped copy layers, all of them. So I'm just going to use Control click and select all of those layers. So they all highlight lighter gray. When you do that, you get a different option up here. I'm still at my Move tool, but I get these new controls up here to do alignment. These are in a lot of Adobe programs. So these ones right here, they're like snap the top edges together, snap the middles together, snap the bottoms together. Right? Those are all your vertical or horizontal alignment. These are all vertical. They'll snap your left edges, your right edges, or your middles. So those are really useful for making things line up on their edges. But there's also these tools here that do distribution. So this one right here, this it's like the 3rd set of icons. This one in the middle, it says distribute along horizontal centers. That's what this one is right here. So if I have all those layers highlighted and I click horizontal distribution, or vertical, damn it, wrong one. What it's going to do, and it might be subtle, in my case it was very hard to see, I'll kind of exaggerate it for you. Not that one. See how they're all out, not perfectly spaced? If I have them all selected over here in layers, and I click vertical alignment right there, it's going to perfectly space them out evenly between each other. So now I have a perfectly patterned, or perfectly repeating pattern just right here in this section. Let's just merge this all in one layer. So I hit Control E, merge them all. We'll just keep calling it shape 1. And this is going to be like the edge. It hangs, it goes up to the edge of my tire. So I'm going to kind of bring these guys over and just kind of like let them hang off the edge a tiny bit, just like that. And I'm using my arrow keys on my keyboard for that. So if you hold down the arrow keys, it lets you slide them around. If you hold down Shift while you're doing that, it goes faster. Something like that. All right, new layer. Let's call this layer Shape 2. Let's go back to our brush tool, D, and let's draw another new shape. So I see like a lot of tires that are kind of have like this like pattern like that, and then a pattern going down. So I think that's what I'm going to try to create. So I want to go with. I'm going to start here, go across, go down. I like that one. Something like that. It feels like sci-fi a little technique. About tires that feel like they're trying really hard, like there's a little like a hint of try hardness on their tires for some reason. I guess it's hard to sell just like a hunk of rubber. Just gotta make it feel sexy a bit. Marketing's weird. Don't do it. I did marketing, I hate it. Alright, let you guys draw that shape out. It doesn't have to be perfectly like this. Mine's not even very good. Just kind of approximates some kind of weird arrow. I don't know.
Just do the Adidas sign.
What's that?
Just do the Adidas sign.
Could be. You could put Adidas. Yeah, you could. If they made Adidas tires, they would make a killing in Russia. All right. So let's grab our eraser brush real quick, and let's just kind of use our eraser tool, kind of, you know, trim this up a little bit. Maybe I'll use the Shift. You see how I'm like, kind of like this rounded edge here. It's not perfectly straight. It's got a little bit of a wobble to it. If I come out here with my eraser brush and I click once and then Shift click over here, it's going to erase that edge and just make it real sharp and nice. So I might do that in a couple spots. Right here probably needs it. So I'm just using the eraser brush and clicking it and using Shift just to kind of tighten up a couple edges. And it's a tire. Nobody knows what a tire looks like. So probably people make some, so interior clickers looks like. So that's cool. I like that, I guess. I think maybe I will kind of just do like a line straight down real quick. So I'll make that brush size thinner, maybe like 10 pixels, 12 pixels. And I'll come over here again, just I'm going to click and hold down Shift and just erase straight down. And maybe I'll do something like this real quick too, just like there you go. It's like something that could be a desk thing.
I don't know what I did.
hit Q. Looks like you're in quick select. All right. Let's duplicate shape 2. So hit Control J to make a second layer. So a second version of it. So we should have a shape 2 copy. Hit Control T to bring up the transform. And let's move this new copy over like that. I'll give them a little bit of space in between each one. And before you accept the transform, right-click and choose flip horizontal, so that the shapes are kind of like back to back. What's that?
That looks like an arrow.
Yeah, let's get there.
What did you click to do it?
I'll go through it one more time. So I duplicated the layer.
I got
Control J,
that, right?
And then Control T to bring up my transform tool.
Right, I'm
So I
there.
just grabbed it and slid it to the left or the right. And I use my arrow keys to give you just a little bit more room just by nudging it to the right. Then as a shortcut, instead of going to edit, transform, if you right click inside anything you're transforming,
okay,
you
right,
get
right.
the same options. And I chose flip horizontal. And then hit OK to accept it.
Okay.
See, it looks cooler now once you start like stacking these things. You kind of start taking on a shape. Hit Control E to merge this down with the first layer, so we just have shape 2 on one layer. We have this weird kind of abstract arrow thing, arrow pointing down. Put eyes on it up here.
I'm trying to figure out how come I have
We can move time.
3 shapes. You got 2. I'm like, wait a.
What's that?
Did you merge these
Yes, we
two
did.
together? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we merged them down.
So how do we merge again?
Control E will merge it down.
Control E. Oh, okay.
This looks like a pretzel.
A what?
It's kind of like a pretzel.
A pretzel?
Yeah.
The pretzel.
See? Right agrees.
Well, I don't want that tire.
It's like a cool, like, cyberpunk pretzel logo. I don't know.
So it's a futuristic kettlebell. Why
Yeah,
have one
it's
handle when you can have two?
To me, it looks like a cobra head.
Control E.
Okay, yeah, I kind of see that.
Mine
Yeah.
looks like a butterfly.
They're all beautiful. Alright, so let's hit Control T so we can scale this. It's a little bit big. So let's scale it down. Again, we probably want to be able to fit at least 3 of these, or at least 2 across. So I'm going to scale it down quite a bit, and I should at least get 3 that way. You know what? And while I'm doing this transform, I'm also going to line it up. See where the crosshairs are, telling us the exact halfway point? I'm going to line that crosshair up on my guide so that I know that's the exact halfway point. And then hit OK to accept my transform. I'm going to go back to my move tool, V, for victory. And using, again, Alt, because that's our shortcut for copying, just Alt and clicking and dragging. I'm going to click and drag this straight down, and I'm going to drop it half, so that it's halfway overlapping the next guy down. If I want to double check, I can hit Control T, and I can see there for myself that crosshair is like a pixel off. hold down Alt, so use my move tool, I'm gonna move this up. Try to center it myself, but if I'm not good at centering it, again, I can just click all my shape 2 layers over here. I have, shape 2 copy and a copy 2. So select all 3 of those. When you have them selected, you can see your alignment tools show up. And I'm going to go ahead and select this one right here, Align Vertical Centers. And it nudged it very slightly, in case you didn't catch it. It was like just barely off, but I'll exaggerate it there. And that looks pretty cool, so that should definitely repeat just fine. Let's merge all the shape 2 copies together, so I'm just going to select them all in the layer again, and then Control and E to merge layer down. Now let's duplicate them, Control J. Control J to make a new set of these layers. Using my move tool, I'm just going to slide them over like this. And let's go to Edit, Transform, Flip, Vertical. Edit, Transform, Flip, Vertical. Definitely put these tires in the Call of Duty G. So Edit, Transform, Flip, Vertical, so that these are inverted. And we can even kind of move these closer together so they nest nice and tight, depending on how your design came out. Very cool technical tires. Charge weekend orders $800 a tire. Hey man, just trying to. You gotta have a side hustle. Just saying. You guys want to take my class? I do a side hustle where I teach people how to start a side hustle. It's called side hustling.
What's it under?
You meet me at the swap meet where I rent a space on the weekends. $80 a person plus super great deal. I sell you a $300 get started hustling business package.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
You get to be your own boss.
You see someone go visit a counselor and they're like, you need a side hustle. I'm gonna send you a side hustle one-on-one.
Who told you to have a class like that?
Well, if you take grifting 103 afterwards, you can apply for the con man certificate. So. All right, let's make a new layer. New layer. Let's call this new layer. Let's call it Sprite, I guess.
The 2 shape 2 ones, are those supposed to be in one layer? Or
I didn't merge them. We could though if you wanted. It's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do here for the stripe, I think I'm going to do 2 actually. Oops. I'm going to grab my marquee tool, a rectangular marquee, so that's M. And I'm going to come over here and just right alongside that line, I'm going to draw a really thin, narrow box. You can go right to the guide and go slightly past it. That's okay. We're going to do some cleanup here in a second anyway. And just draw a box about that size there. And then fill it with white. So since our foreground is already white, I'll just hit Alt backspace. Alt backspace will fill that selection. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control D to deselect.
Alright.
Gotta make another new layer. And I kind of want to make like a, make a pattern like this that fills in those negative shapes. That's what I don't want to make it dumb. I want to make it work. I don't want to throw off our tiling by making something kind of unsymmetrical. Something like that. So let's, on this new layer, oh, I know how we'll do it without breaking it. Let's get our rectangular mark, or our polygon lasso tool. Do you guys remember that one? Polygon lasso. You get to it with L as your shortcut. Or again, Control F, and you can type anything as soon as the command loads. There it goes. Lasso. And you want the poly lasso. So this will help us just draw like really sharp shapes. Whereas these were kind of nice and rounded because of the brush, but you know, we can change it up. So what I want to do is I'm going to click on the stripe, just hover right above the stripe. I'll draw a shape here. Just kind of like a triangle, I guess. And just tap once to click where you want it to leave a point. And then go around, loop up to the top, and then double click to make a connection. So that's what my little drawing shape looks like. It's not beautiful. But it should be okay. Yeah, I don't know if I like this. Go ahead and fill it with white, Alt backspace, will fill. I think we only need to repeat this twice, right? Anyway, once you fill, hit Alt D to deselect. What's that? What did I say? Oh, Control D, yeah. I bet that did fully. I'm up at that. I mean, it was time to do movie day, but I was very grateful it was time to do movie day. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to grab my eraser brush with E, and I'm still on this new layer we created. I never even gave it a name. And I'm just going to shift and then hold. I'm going to click and hold shift and drag into this. I'm on the eraser tool E. And I'm just kind of creating this shape all the way in, and I'm going all the way back to the stripe so that it's creating a hard edge there.
Now, how do I get that eraser brush cursor back? It disappears some kind of way.
Did you hit E, or what's happening?
Yeah, I hit E.
Is it not erasing all the way?
Yeah, it got the crosshairs instead of the circle.
Oh man, it's such a pain. Go to File, Edit, Preferences, and choose Cursors. Edit Preferences, Cursors.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to like turn Photoshop off completely and restart it to get this to work.
And go to which one?
So, Edit, Preferences, Cursors. You want to just select Normal Brush Tip. And I don't have any of these boxes checked, they're all unchecked.
Right, that's what I have. That's weird.
And then hit OK. I think we found the other day, like you double tap. Happened the other day too, remember?
Still across, yes, still across here, but it's okay.
You might have to like save and reopen Photoshop to get it. Alright, I have this done shape now. Mine is. Yes, I see the little ones out. What's that?
What is that? That one is.
Yeah.
Right in here.
We're just not done with it, so it looks kind of weird right now.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
It'll be okay once we, like, you won't even pay attention to it once we get it out and start splicing. Hit Control J now. And I'm going to slide this piece down right about there. I'm just trying to, like, fill in this negative shape here. So this one, we're not overlapping, so because we're not going to repeat it. It's not going to overlap the guide. We're just going to try to make sure that this space here, that this space here is equal to this space here. So that you just kind of have to shift things around a little bit using your arrow tools, or using the arrow keys with the move tool selected. I think that'll work actually. Yeah, you're right. Seeing it all together looks okay. Might come in here and just do this.
That's just
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's good. Cool. I like that. That'll work. Let's save this. Save it real quick. You can leave this in your My Textures folder. And let's just call it tire tread. Tire tread. You can leave it as a PSD because this is our working document. It keeps all the layers and all that stuff. Hit OK. Now what we're going to do is we're going to merge all these documents to one layer. And then we're going to delete the stuff that is hanging outside of the guide box that we created for ourselves. So I'm going to select all my layers, except the last one, layer 0. So you can see I have about 6 layers here. All of these are selected. And I'm going to hit Alt-Control-E. Alt-Control-E. And what that's going to do is it puts all of those layers and merges them together and puts that on its own layer. So now what I can do is turn off, so leave the top one on, it's called layer 1 copy merge. Let's just call it tread pattern. Or tree pattern. Tread pattern. And I'm going to turn off the eyeballs for all the other layers. So I've just turned off the visibility on every other layer we created. So the only thing it should be on is tread pattern and the background, the black background. You guys admitted to that.
You see Jeff's little message once
Yes, Steve. He came up with some
Yeah,
good
A
ones.
on everything. It was like after A crap. I guess he erased the A.
Oh, yeah. He gets creative every now and then.
He said it took him a while, but I'm like, it looks almost just like you're writing. He's like, yeah, I had to manipulate how he had his letters and stuff.
Oh, is he trying to write it like I did? Actually, he's pretty close.
Yeah. It confused me yesterday because I was like, wait a second, we didn't have class yesterday.
Yeah. Did you get them all merged? I'll give you
No,
a minute. But
no, I
yeah,
didn't.
when you're done, select all the other layers except the background one, and then
I'm lost. Okay, so select all of them.
every one of them except the background layer.
Where's my background?
What?
That's the background, black, right?
Yes, select that one, and I go to the very top one.
In the third
You
column.
gotta go
you've
more,
got
a little
it-
bit more. Yeah, those two.
Yeah,
There you
you
go.
got
Now hit
slit
Control
lines,
and
Oh,
Alt and
format
E.
opening slit.
Control, Alt, and
E.
E.
Okay,
guess you can
so
have
what that's
the-
done is it's put everything on its own layer now.
I guess
So I need to name that layer.
And you go to the very top.
I wonder if they-
Okay, this one I just created, so I can get rid of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Got that out of there.
So the very new one at the top, that'll be the very top. Oh, can I help you real quick? I'm gonna stretch this out so you have more space to work with. Right now it's really, there you go. You can see all your layers.
All right.
So we can turn all of these off because everything we did is on this one layer now too.
Right, right,
So,
right.
so call that
Well,
one
yeah,
tread
couple
pattern.
days yesterday, I said, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then after I'm thinking, I'm like, I think this other thing was like that.
Like, I had one idea was like, okay, is that outside of my scope?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's another thing too. That's
Because like the kind of idea that I had was like, I'll just install cars
Okay, so now we're on that tread pattern layer, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim off the excess stuff that's hanging outside of the guide box so that it'll be repeatable when we go to move it around our layer. So go ahead and grab your marquee, your rectangular marquee, and what I'm gonna do is just I'm gonna drag a box and let it snap against the far edge and the top of our guide, and then hit backspace. I really hope this file will. And I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. I'm going to click out here, it's a blank space, drag up against the left edge, and against the bottom of our box and hit backspace. Now, if we start to move things around, they should tile pretty nicely. Should be the key word. We'll get to that in just a second.
That's there.
There is one there.
And then backspace will delete it. Just backspace. Oh. You have
Oh.
both layers still selected, so just do the top one. There you go. Now it'll work.
Do that to the bottom.
And do that to the bottom as well.
Considering it's tileable, is there any more reason to delete the excess?
Just to make it easier to move it around, I think, because it's easier to me at least, it's easier to snap to those guides than it is to try to line up pieces, you know? But like we did, the first thing we did was tiling. You could draw all over this thing and then do like the tiling offset and then just fix the seams too. So there's many ways to do that. I just like to try to show you guys a different approach to these projects.
So Alt and moving the mouse will copy it. If you go Alt and push up, that just makes more copies in the same spot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I tried to do a find adjustment and I'm like, what the heck? And then I look over and I've got 20 copies of
Yeah.
that.
You have to hit Alt once and
Yeah,
then.
just deleted 220.
Like, this is not
I bet that we could.
It's just a trap.
I bet we could use transforms.
It's a trap.
Why don't you have like Star Wars ready for us to move it on?
Before you guys start moving that stuff around, you guys got the If you guys will remember, these pieces were longer. We need to do a crop because if we move this over, you see how we even missed a little bit right there? That's going to affect how our transforms and stuff work. So before we move this and clone it all around, what we need to do is to select all, so Control A selects our entire document, and then do an edit or an image crop. So if you did just tile up and down, you're probably okay. You can still do this image crop right now. And then Control D to deselect, and you can see I don't have any clutter or crud out here now. So I'm curious if I make a copy, Control J, and then do a transform, Control T, I'm curious if I can tell it to move 499 pixels. Nope, that's sheer. I definitely don't want sheer. So what I'll end up just doing is moving this up. Just I'm holding Shift and using my move tool and sliding it up and trying to get it to snap right up to the edge of the top of my document. And it should snap up there nicely. And let's do the same thing going down. So I'll go back to my tread copy layer. Back to my tread copy layer, Control and J. Makes another copy. Using the move tool and shift to assist me, I'll drag it straight down until it snaps into place. And then one more time, shift or Control J. Use my move tool while holding shift and snap it into place. Now if I hit control and control and semicolon, I should be able to hide my guides temporarily, and I shouldn't have any seams. It should look pretty good. Control semicolon right there, adjacent to L. So I'll turn back on. I just wanted to get a quick look. Sometimes the guides will hide like a seam, and you don't notice you have like a razor thin line that's causing a seam. Let's merge all of these tread patterns together. So you can see I have a bunch of them now. I have tread pattern copies. Select all those tread pattern copies and the layers, and then you're going to hit Control E. Control E. And let's do a Control J on our newly merged layer. And we'll use our move tool to move it on over. And I need to do a transform so I can flip it, right? I want this side over here. So what I'll do is image, transform, flip horizontal. Image, transform, flip horizontal. And then I just want to make sure the edges of my like tire tread, those little knobs there, go all the way up against the edge, so that they're seamless. So like, this is a really straightforward kind of, basic pattern, basic tread. You could do all kinds of different stuff. You could do angles. You could do like more complicated detail. You could do curves. I just kind of wanted to show you something a little straightforward to get you the idea of how it works. There is one more thing I would like to do before we bring this on over into Maya, and that is if you look at the edge of a tire tread, bring it up real quick. Never just live Google pictures on the projector. You never know. You just never know.
Sounds like an inverted.
I said tired nuns, not tired dudes. No.
So, as you can see here, they have all kinds of weird detail. Who knows if this stuff actually improves traction or water shedding? I don't know. But you can see how they kind of have this slope, this little bit of a fall off there on the edge of the tire. I want to recreate that in our textures, and we're just going to use a gradient to do that. We'll make it real simple. So go back into your Photoshop file, make a new layer, and we'll call this edge fall off. Edge fall off. Let's find our gradient tool, which might have disappeared off the face of the planet. I think the hotkey for that is still G, however. Gradient tool. If you can't find it, Control F. Type gradient. Now I need my foreground color to be black because I want this to subtly fade off. So I'm going to choose, I'll just hit D to choose my default colors. Or X, if your background color is black, you can hit X to flip that to the foreground. Two more things I need to change. I need to go into the gradient editor itself. That's the box here. It kind of shows what the gradient is. And I want to make sure I choose this gradient tool right here, the second one. The second option is always your foreground color to transparent. So whatever's in your foreground to clear. That's what I want, so I'll hit OK. The last bit I want is right here. I want to choose the linear gradient. I want it to make a perfectly straight line. So right there, linear gradient. The way we'll do this with our gradient tool is come over here to the edge. You need to use shift while you're dragging out your gradient, because if you do even a slight angle, like barely an angle like that, look what it does. It cuts off your image. So I'll control Z that. You want to come over here, and I'll just kind of highlight one of these tire knob things here. I'm going to start just a hair over from the edge, so just a hair over. I'm going to click, hold shift, and drag over just a tiny bit, like that. So click, hold shift, drag over a little bit. Maybe even a little bit further. I'll control Z that. Click, drag over. There, something like that should be perfect. So what that's doing is kind of creating a nice subtle fall off on the edge of our tire. I could probably go further if I want. So you can see there I've created like there's a nice soft edge falling off. You have to do shift or else, you know, even if you were like super close and you draw like a 90.1 degree line, it'll mess it up. I'll try real hard. It's almost perfect. You can see it's still kind of an edge. We just want a real short fall off too. We don't want it to like cover the whole tire. That'd be a problem. Everyone got their fall off?
No.
No? Need a hand real quick?
Yeah.
If you do have it, you can duplicate this layer, flip it horizontally, and then move it to the other side.
You said, come on here. Click,
Click and
hold
hold.
shift.
No. Yeah, click and hold shift. Oh, okay. Let's try it one more time. Go to the edge. Click and hold. Like hold with, you gotta hold the mouse. Like hold the mouse.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm
now
sorry,
click.
I'm holding shift. Okay.
Now click.
Click,
Hold shift.
hold shift, and hold the mouse.
Keep going a little further. More. Not from the back. Right there. That should work. That's it.
Okay.
Cool. Now hit Control J. And then we're going to go to Edit, Transform. And move it all the way over to the right. So we're going to go to the other edge.
Okay, edit, transform. Control, transform. Move it where?
All the way to the right edge.
What happened?
These are your arrow keys. If you hold shift while you're doing this, it goes extra fast.
Now rotate it.
Keep going. You're almost there. You're like halfway there. Now you gotta go all the way over. This is only halfway there.
Back up. Oh, all the way over that way.
Yeah. All the way up to the edge. Hold it. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click inside the transform and choose flip horizontal. And so that way the fall off's on this side too.
Okay.
And you're all set. Save it up. Alright, so I'll just move duplicate of my edge fall off, so Control J to duplicate it. And I'll use the move tool to move it off to this side. And then Control T to go and transform and do a flip horizontal. And then hit OK. So that's my tire tread. I'm going to save it up, Control S. Control S. And we're going to do, we're going to save this as a PNG, so we're going to bring it into Maya. So after you've done your save, do a file save as, put it in your My Textures, and you can even call it, let's call it tire tread 1. Tire tread 1. And we'll save the file type as a PNG. File type PNG. And save that guy up. Large file size is fine, hit OK. my textures, the PNG, and once you've done that, you can minimize Photoshop and go ahead and launch good old Maya. Now, this scene was initially built in Mental Ray, and we had some problems with Mental Ray going forward. I think I worked out most of the kinks today on how to make this work. I did get it to work, so hopefully it'll be okay.
I'm going to make a regular note.
Just displace it.
You can have
what?
your own alcohol.
I mean, you could go change the roughness.
Gentlemen.
Before you guys open the scene, I'm actually going to open it up and clean it up. That way, there's a little less hassle for everybody.
Jeff showed us the GPU render.
For Arnold?
Not Arnold, but the one that I guess they're trying to do is, they had this big old scene and they hit like render and it showed a video of how fast it is. And it's like, yeah, it's like, that's like, we'll never get that because I guess it used to be in something else, but Autodesk kicked it out.
Arnold is, they keep saying we're working on
Come
a
up here too.
render, but
Right.
they haven't put it out.
Yeah,
You
he
got
showed
your
us.
email.
It was so awesome.
Mine didn't alert me, so I was out there in the parking lot like, where is
Blender,
it?
the release candidate 2 is coming out. They're saying it's going to have some preliminary RTX support. I'm like, wow, where's Maya's RTX support? It's in 2021. Like, all right, so as a couple of you guys are still opening up the file, what I'm going to do real quick is just kind of make it a little cleaner for us to work on. As soon as the new features are done telling me that they're super cool. Come on. Good program.
The network's not messed up. Yeah, we didn't have flash yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we took our test. Jeff, come get the network.
Okay. We're at home. Photoshop was acting like a crap.
Yeah, I know.
We brought Clippy back.
You both like it's interesting.
It's not high dad. Reflection. It's a little
Look at that. They would have had that made me.
No spinners?
All right, so yeah, here's the scene. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to save. Oh, there is a save camera. Cool. What I'm going to do, in case you guys have this problem, if you go to optimize file seat or optimize scene size, and you can say remove unused, you want to check unknown nodes, and hit apply. What that does is it goes through and it's going to kill any node that is not connected to a render, like the metal ray. I'll kill this library out because there's this weird reflection panel that doesn't do anything now. So that's out. This is our image-based lighting for this. Now that's out.
Just that time.
Yeah, it's just a tire. This is like showroom stuff. I'm also going to go into our hyper shade. I think there's a bunch of unused materials in here we'll kill.
We should find out. Let's go.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
I'll leave forward, man, but I'm going to delete rubber because this is based off of a Fong, and we're going to do the one we always use. I'll do that one, I'll do that one.
Put it in the tires. Rubber on top of your rubber, inside your rubber.
Now, when I got to his house, his car was fucked up. But thanks to Photoshop for animators, we got the 10 minute
Hey.
ride.
Exhibit gets bleeped out.
So on MTV, he gets paid a lot.
Okay.
Bleep, 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 bleep.
So this screwed this up, but what I'm going to do is just swap it back over to the default Lambert. We'll build one with Maya or with Arnold real easy.
Then we're just gonna sit and film and cry.
Oh, beautiful! Instead of save all. I'll call this Tire Shred S 2019. That's one we're gonna open. Okay. So let's do it All right, everyone got mine open? Cool, file, new scene. No, I want to save this stupid scene, it's not a minute.
Yeah, I wanna save it though. You never know.
Or file open scene, whatever. And this is where you're gonna go, file open scene, you're gonna go to my computer. Then you're gonna go to the student access drive, which is the S drive, which suddenly just called MERT S on my computer. That's weird. Okay. Then you're gonna go to Clark Anim, Clark MERT 56. And we're gonna go into the Texturing Seamless and Cuts 3 folder, TSAC 3. Scenes, we're gonna go into the Scenes directory. And you're gonna open up the file I just made, Tire Treading S 2019, Summer 2019. Tire Treading S 2019. So I just did a little bit of cleanup, try to make the night go a little smoother for us. Open that guy up. I'll save the scene.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, Jeff modeled this super cool rim.
So we go, I'm sorry.
It's okay. As soon as you open it, do a file save scene as,
Wow.
and you're
What was
gonna
that?
put this in your iDrive project directory.
We're gonna go to TSAC3.
Oh, okay, I was looking for the number 3. Okay, my bad.
Oh, you're right. I should say that.
Okay, okay.
Scenes. And you're gonna open up the Tire Treading S 2019. That's it. And then now that you have the scene open, let's save a copy for you. So go to File, Save As. Save Scene As, I should say. And go ahead and put it in your computer, iDrive, Maya. And you put it right here. Yeah, just call it Tire Treading.
So yeah, put this in your iDrive and your Maya directory, pretty please. Here on top. So I'll go to my default iDrive, my workplace, and yeah, I'm gonna call it Tire Treading. I'll just give it my last name, Tire Treading Clark. Save it up. So everyone has their own copy. We're not accidentally overwriting the main one I just created real quick. All right. So what do we got in the scene? We have just a real basic plane here to kind of capture the light. It does have this checker grid, this racing, I guess.
Yeah.
And we have a camera set up for render. That's about it. We also have, if you right-click your little bookmarks there, it kind of looks like a bookmark. You can just pop over to camera view, and that's how we'll do our render. So what we need to do is texture this tire with the textures we all just created. So first, let's give it a material. So we're going to be kind of in and out of the hyper shade a couple times today, and then we're going to do a little bit of UV mapping. So first, let's give it a texture. So let's go into, let's select the tire. So you have the rim, that's this bit here. It looks black because it's set to full metalness, full shininess. So it's only going to reflect an environment. So we'll set that up soon. So go ahead and select this part though, the tire part, the rubber bit. Right click and hold to bring up our options. And we're going to go to assign new material at the bottom of that list. So right click and hold and choose assign new material. We've got our very familiar assign new material button. Choose Arnold, and you are looking for the Arnold standard surface. Arnold standard surface. So by default, it's kind of like a white plastic, which doesn't work for a tire. Luckily, there's already a rubber preset. So after you apply the tire, you should see the standard surface here in your attribute editor. And across from the name, which we should name this right here, let's call it AI Rubber. So I'm just going to call it Rubber, R-U-B-B-E-R. I don't know why I had to spell for you, but that's the case. You're wondering.
Why is this one like this?
Do you not see the attribute editor?
I don't see it either.
That's it.
It should be
Oh,
over
yeah, I
here
do, yeah.
on the very, very right edge of your screen. It's right up against the edge.
Oh, we have, you probably have history, you can click to the right on top.
Oh, what just happened?
Oh, you do have history. Click over.
Where do you see the
white
history
arrows.
at?
Arnold Standard Surface 1.
Yeah, Arnold Standard Surface 1.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll delete that history after we do a couple things to the picture. So Maya remembers all of your history. So those little tabs are all
Okay,
different
okay.
moves and things
AI
that were
rubber.
created when the tire was modeled. That's why you want to
Thanks.
freeze things often.
Yeah, no problem.
Because you get all these nodes connected to a single object and it starts to kill your scene. Okay, so everyone good?
Yeah.
No? Okay, you send this. Okay, with the tire name, right across from the name is an option for presets. For the presets, and you get a drop down of some things that the Arnold folks put together. And I'm looking for one called, you guessed it, rubber. Yeah, that's copper. We're driving a copper tire. Rubber? Yeah, rubber tires. Made of wood? No, we're looking for rubber, and then you're gonna choose replace. Rubber replace. And so it's going to replace it with a default rubber material that's pretty close to a tire. The only thing you really need to adjust are the colors, the base, and the specular, and then everything else is going to be pretty much dead on. So you should see here AI rubber, and color is this light gray. We need to make that very, very dark gray, like charcoal gray. And we also need to make this specular color much darker too. So I'll start with color. I'm going to click right here on the swatch. Click right there. And I get a slider down here. So whenever you click on these color swatches, you get all these different options in Maya. You get a color wheel with our luminance and saturation here. You also get a value down here, just how dark something is. So right now it's at about halfway down. I'm just going to drag the slider to like 0.015 or something. Very, very low. How about 0.01? You see here, I just chose the color to be very, very low, 0.011. These tires are very dark and they don't reflect a lot of light. They absorb a lot of light. Alright, I hit escape. Now that I'm done with that. Next thing I'm going to change is the specular color. So tires do have a bit of shine. They do pick up like highlights, but they're very dark. They're not like shining light. So again, I'm going to click on that specular tab, or the color tab. And I'm going to bring the value down, but not as far as last time. How about 0.02? How about 0.25? 0.25. You know what? 0.3. I want to make sure you can see the pattern. It's too dark to see the pattern. Yeah, so right there, and then this is the specular color. Value is 0.03 there. You can see it's much further down the value slider. So here's the trick. Everything we've done, we've applied the displacement to the whole object, right? Like the whole ocean, or we apply like bumps to the whole layer. How do you apply the displacement just to the tread part of the tire, not the sidewalls? We're going to project, so that part's already good.
Kind of like how we did the first project where we had to select certain groups and we broke them apart. Like
Close.
and the grass.
Close. We're actually going to do two materials. So we are just going to remain one mesh, but we're going to apply different materials. So we have rubber, and what we're going to do is duplicate this. Leave the settings alone. We're going to make two versions of it. One will be called rubber, and the other ones will be called rubber treads. And those ones will have the displacement attached to them. All right. So let's throw some UVs on this guy real quick. So select the tire. And let's go to the UV up here in our menu bar at the very top. UV is right there. And you're going to choose cylindrical, just like we did back with the barrel. So UV, cylindrical. And by default, the cylindrical thing is, if you look at it, it's like our cage, like our barrel, right? It's standing upright. And we need it to be laying down. So what you should get when you click on this and get your attribute editor, we're going to go in here where it says rotate. And you get this X, Y, and Z coordinates. I want you to rotate X, the first box, 90 degrees, a positive 90. So that should have rotated the barrel shape on its side, closer to the tire. Now the next line down says horizontal sweep. It's at 180. That's how far the tire wraps around. So go ahead and change that from 180 to 360. We want it to wrap all the way around. Worldwide. The other thing is, if you look at it here, it is really wide. It is way wider than our tire is, right? So we need to squash it down so that our texture fits right. So to do that, I'm going to go to where it says projection height. It's the next option down. And scale that in. The other option, if you don't want to use the slider, is there's this little T right here on the projection handles. You click that T, it brings up the transform tool. You can see I have a transform tool now. And I can grab this green square right there and slide it inwards to scale. So either way, this slider, which is probably a lot easier, or 3 or 4 buttons to get there. And you're probably looking around like 0.15 or 0.115 as your height. Yeah, I'll just do 1.15. 1.15. Once you're done with that, click your arrow tool over here in the side of your toolbar. Click your arrows to get out of the projection. Right click, go to object mode to get out of that tool for the time being. Alright. Right click and choose faces on that, on those arrows. Okay, so now we're ready to apply this new material that's going to have the displacement to it. So we should make it first though, because it's a pain to make the selection and then have to go back and do it again. So open up Hypergraph or Hypershade. Remember Hypershade is like the green ball up here with the highlight next to the render slates. Hypershade. And that's going to bring up our texture editor. And we should have floor, it's a checkerboard. We should have rim, which is this shiny. AI rubber, which is the one we made, and then our default Lambert. What I want you to do is middle click and hold, middle mouse button click on AI rubber and drag it out into our editor. Drag it outward. And we're going to duplicate it. And the easiest way to duplicate a shading group is just to have it selected out here. And then choose Edit, Duplicate, Shading Network. So go to Edit, Duplicate, Shading Network. So middle click and drag your rubber texture to the editor. And maybe if you weren't on your phone, you would got it.
I don't see the duplicate shading network. I see duplicate special.
It should be Edit, under the Edit menu, and then Duplicate halfway down, and then it has a pop-up for Shading Network.
It's in the hypershade one.
Oh, make sure you're in the Hypershade one, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought you.
No, mine was covered. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, make sure you're doing this in the Hypershade window, not the regular Maya work window.
Shading network. Okay.
Yeah, Shading Network. Go ahead and click that. And what that's going to do is create a new texture called AI Rubber 1. So select AI Rubber 1. And what we're going to do is click the Inputs Outputs button here in our editor. So remember input, and output is the box with the two triangles. And that's going to get rid of the one we're not looking at and show us the AI rubber. Huh, did bring up a shape here, though. What a jerk.
Alright. Is that still a rubber? Just
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, name this one rubber, and then the next one rubber treads. So where it says AI rubber 1, name this one rubber treads. So I'm just going to name it treads. Triads. We're almost done. Let me get that movie started soon. All right. So that was rubber treads. Cool. Go ahead and close the hypershade for now. So this material is an exact copy of the first rubber one. There's no difference. The only thing we're going to do is load stuff into the displacement channel. So the materials will respond to light identically, but one's going to have displacement to it. So to tell Maya where this other texture is going to go, we just have to select those pieces of the mesh. So this is what we're going to do. Select your tire. Select the tire. Right-click to bring up our component options. Choose face. Your wires should change color. What I want you to do is we're going to start with these middle 2 rows. The fastest way to select these is to click one face and then either one face up or one face down. Hold down shift and double click. And that's going to add to the selection and then ring the selection. Now I'm going to hold shift and click the next middle polygon. See that? And I'm going to shift, double click either one of the polys above it or below it. So shift, double click. So I've just selected these 2 middle rings of polys. So I'll do it again. I'm just going to select, we have 4 polys going across. I'm going to start with one of the middle ones. Shift, double click the next poly up. Go to the next row over by holding shift and clicking once. And then shift double click either a poly above it or below it to ring it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to grow our selection. So when you do a selection grow, it selects all the polygons that are touching the current selected one. So go to modify. I think it's a modify. It's probably under select with all the other selection tools. So go to select and you're going to choose grow. Select grow. And you see it goes out by 1 row of polys. Do it one more time. Select, grow. And then goes out by 1 more row of polys. Yeah, it's a fast way of selecting. So now let's apply that new tread material. So right click on this text or on these polys, the selected polys. Right click and hold. And go down to assign existing material and choose AI rubber treads. AI rubber treads.
That's telling us that we don't matter anymore.
It is. Let's try doing it this way. Let's open up hypershade.
We don't matter anymore.
I love how I do this at home. And this is, I mean, we've been doing this all semester, right? What I'll do is I'm going to bring up my hypershade. I'm going to move it down here so I just see my material nodes. I'm going to middle click and drag this over and drop it on there and see what it gives me. That totally worked. Wow, screw you. Make sure it's selected if you're, I don't think your treads are selected, Andre. So, throw your hands up if you need help with this, because this threw us off. Okay, so treads, middle click and hold, drag it over and drop it on the selected.
Middle. Oh. God dang.
Get it.
Right. I had it all selected.
Let me know if you need assistance with that, because that's kind of screwy.
Hold on, I gotta start all over.
Yeah, you're not going to know. It's not going to show a difference yet. It's kind of subtle.
No, I had to start all over. Something else popped up.
Okay, let's see.
Sure.
You got to go component mode?
Okay, that's what
Yeah,
happened.
You go to base.
resolve drop rubber threads onto the
And have to click.
Oop,
Yeah, you can't click on a different object. It'll switch your components.
base.
So just click one, start. Now shift double click. Now shift click the next one. And shift double click. Oop, control Z, control Z. Alright, try again. Shift double click. Okay, do you mind if I try it real quick? Okay, I see it. And now we're gonna grow, which the shortcut is just a bracket, so I'll do shift. And so I don't know what's going on, why it won't let us apply material through the menu, but what we're going to do is middle click on this, the shader ball here, drag it over and drop it. And that seems like it
Okay,
worked.
that's what happened. I pulled this one over.
It should have worked. It's not, I don't know why that's happening. Okay, so let's go back to object mode and then bring up your hypershade.
So everyone go back to object mode and bring back up your hypershade. Now the problem is we have to align our textures to the tread. We don't know how many times it's repeating. We don't, if it needs repeats, we don't know the direction it's gonna go. So it would be really hard to figure that out by rendering a displacement every time, right? So what we're gonna do first, before we put displacement into the picture into the displacement shade, or the shader node, we're gonna plug it into color first. So bring up your hypershade. Bring up hypershade. Make sure you have the rubber treads textured out. And I'm going to go into the base node right here. I'm going to click on create node across from color. Choose file. Did that not connect? Why did it connect? Your guys?
Mine didn't connect either.
That is so weird.
Yeah, so I disconnected that. And I'm on my file, I'm going to load my tire tread texture. So go find it in your iDrive. It should be in your My Textures directory.
Hold on. How do you connect?
What's that?
What the hell?
Color.
God dang it.
So now that you have that, you should see your treads on your tire. But they are wrong.
Mike keeps on trying to connect the two nodes.
Okay, what happened?
Keeps connecting these two.
Right.
I tried.
Alpha or alpha color? No. It's not connecting.
How do we select both of these? Like that and drag them both?
Texture protection.
Then we go to alpha.
Take the alpha.
Where are we connecting alpha to?
This arrow. Yeah, plug color to base color.
To the base?
Look, I got a bad feeling. Connect alpha. There's not this one.
Are you sure? What do you have connected?
Oh, you got color.
Color? So color
If
connected
yours is
to
just showing straight white, make sure you have the
Base
show
color.
texture on in the viewport. That's a little checker ball right here.
Okay, mom there. Okay.
So the texture is on there, it's just the wrong direction.
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh,
You
I
have it
was
loaded.
good.
Okay, you go to file. And now you're going to go into your iDrive.
We connect it from the bottom, alpha color,
merge
select it over to the color plan. The base
Tire tread one.
Yeah, base color.
Okay.
All right, so what we need to do is rotate the texture, and then we need to repeat it.
Rotate the texture.
All right, so to do that, yeah, we missed it there. So it's been a week for everybody.
They added it to the rubber as well, not just treads.
Should they?
And the hypershaver has the sample balls up here. I'm seeing that same file on both.
Wow, that is not working the way it's supposed to. Okay. You can break it really easy. Everyone, real quick, This file's giving us some bugs, so we're just gonna have to work through them. Pull out the AI rubber, just the original tire material we created. Just pull it out real quick by middle clicking, dragging it out to your window. For whatever reason, mine duplicated the out color into my rubber as well. That's why it didn't initially connect. So you see how this one file is filling in two different shader networks? I'm just going to click the wire that connects it to the original rubber texture. I'm going to click it and drag it away and break the connection. It's just going to snap that connection and remove it from there, okay? And then that should get rid of the image being applied to the wrong shade or the wrong material.
Well, that makes sense now, because last time I was going over the whole time, I'm like, why did I even
Yeah.
select all that stuff?
That's dumb. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, so with our shading group all set up, we need to figure out the rotation of this tire. So the rotation of our texture is wrong, and the repeats are probably wrong too. So what we need to do is, here's our shading network, right? We have the material, we have the group, here's our image. This texture node, you remember, is how it describes how the texture is placed. That's why it's called a place texture. Go ahead and click on this one, and it gives us some options. So rotate frame is going to rotate our picture. So go ahead and go in there and type 90. Where it says rotate frame, type 90. And now check the scene. Now it's rotating the right way. But it's stretching the one picture over the whole tire, which is a little too much, right? So what we need to do is repeat it in the V direction. So bring up your hypershade again. And where it says repeat U and V, change the V value to like something like 6 or 8. Just whatever is going to look better for your tire. Now you can see your tread. It should be repeating without too much stretching. If it looks like it's stretching, up your repeats. If it looks too small, like really tiny detail that doesn't look right for a texture like that, that's too many repeats. 50 is too many. So somewhere between like, I don't know, 6 and 10 should probably be okay. I think 8 looks all right on mine. So now we know how our textures lined up.
Mines don't look right. You said rotate frame at 90, right?
Uh-huh.
Repeat UV, and I look like that.
Okay. Oh, change that back to 1. Change the second value there. That's the V value. Change that one to like 6 or 8. There you go. That's
Oh,
perfect.
okay.
Yeah, I just wrecked my car all apart.
Okay, so it's good here.
I'd still think that was
I guess it does. Huh?
Okay, so there we go. Oh, you don't want to repeat. You only want to repeat once. Wow, there's 2 tires on top of it. Okay, that's what's happening. That was what was going on, is you were seeing through both of them kind of simultaneously and getting that weird glitch. So we can go back to our placed node. Let's do physics. And that was a lot. How you doing? Oh, okay, I see what's going on. We repeated it 0, so it's just like squished all. I would say like 6. Nope, leave that one 1, because that's a cross. We only needed to repeat 1. But we needed to repeat lengthwise a bunch of times. Cool. Everyone's texture looking good? Give me a like, comment, or subscribe if your texture doesn't look good.
Your mother's maiden name and the last three numbers?
Last four for social security.
Okay. So what's happening is your projection is taking off slightly. So the way you fix that is you right click and go into UV sets. Oh, you have two. That's a problem. So let's go to set. Let's check out the first one. That one looks okay. Let's check out the second set. Okay, so we'll do one of our set editor. And we're going to delete projection. We're going to make the other freeze that. So all our UV sets are gone. No, it happens. That's why it's good to know that. And since you have it out, you can just kind of get it right to where that edge is falling off. Let's see if we have we got it.
Like I hated mine at first, but once I found out it has a lot of useful tools and stuff like that, I just gotta figure out what they're called. It grew on me. Okay. So our displacement, alignment, everything looks really good. We just need to go in the hypergraph and start moving stuff around. But before we do that, you remember we have to do a couple tweaks to the mesh before it starts displacing, right? Otherwise it's gonna look kind of wonky. Let's save our scene real quick. Let's do a file save. Whenever I get close to rendering time, I start getting a little nervous because I've been burned a lot before. Happened to be earlier today. I crashed my crashed my so like we mentioned earlier, every object has a history. Every time you move something, add something, and it can build up and cause problems. The way you fix that is I'm going to select my tire and I'm going to go to Edit, Delete by Type, and choose History. What that does is just kind of collapses all the extra nodes that make up the modeling or the textures or whatever. So do a Delete by Type History. And that's going to simplify your scene a little bit, make it render a little cleaner. Next thing, we need to have, with our tire selected, the cylinder shape 1, we need to go to the tab that says P cylinder shape 1. It should be the second one. Yeah. And what you're going to open up next is the Arnold tab. So P cylinder shape 1, open up Arnold, and we get all kinds of objects or properties. Scroll down through the Arnold menus, and what you're looking for is one called Subdivision. So there's a new tab inside of Arnold, Subdivision. Open that guy up, and where it says Type None, change that to Cat Clark. And where it says Iterations, let's start with 3 iterations. 3 iterations. There's also another tab under this subdivision called Displacement Attributes. Open that tab up. And we get a height and a bounds padding. So height is how much this tire is going to be pushed outwards, right? Padding is how far is that boundary allowed to go. How far can that displacement be pushed? Right now at 0, if we apply our texture, what's going to happen is the padding is going to make this turn into a square. It's really weird. It feels like science going backwards. What?
It's just a Canadian tire.
It's just a Canadian tire, yeah. So before we adjust too much, change your bounds padding value to 1. You go ahead and leave the height at 1 for now, but change your bounds padding to 1. Actually, just change the height, because it's going to suck. Change it to 0.12. 0.12. Yeah, we don't need this tire to be giant. We're not making a monster truck. No, we don't need to go crazy. So again, I'll just reiterate this real quick. We have the mesh selected for the tire. Under the tab P cylinder shape 1, we opened up Arnold. Scroll down till we got to the subdivision option, open that guy up. Change our type to Cat Clark with the sub iterations of 3. That way when we go to render, we get more subdivisions. And that will show our displacement nicer. Then we opened up our displacement attributes. We changed the height to 0.12 because that's much more realistic, and we changed the bounds padding to 1. And that's all we need to do here, I hope. Now, let's go to our hypergraph. Hypershade. I don't know why I want to call it a graph. This is a really good graph. It's really exciting.
It's a beautiful ground.
All right, so we set up our image and our place image here to describe exactly how our texture looks on the model. But we don't need it plugged into base color anymore. What we actually need is it plugged into displacement. But before we can do that, we need to plug it into a math node that's going to turn it into displacement data. So let's start there. Let's click on our shading group right here. It's the node that everything else connects to in the front. And choose the displacement material. Click on the create node. And it says, what kind of node are we creating? We're creating a file. So when we do that, mine already goes, oh, if you're creating a file, you need something to convert that image. It builds us the shader node right here. And it's doing us a favor by giving us the file and the place 2D. But we don't need these. We already have our own. So go ahead and select these two. So they turn green and hit. These are the bottom ones that connected to the shader, the displacement shader. Hit backspace, and they're gone.
Now, where did you find the create node?
It's the checker flag. So across from where it says displacement shader, see it right there, it says displacement, go down, you just had your mouse on.
Okay, right here.
Click the create node.
Okay. My bad. File.
Now you can see it drags down from our shading group down
Right,
to displacement. And then you have a place 2D and a file. Select those two. So you should have these two right here like that, right?
Okay.
Select both of them. And then backspace to remove them.
Okay. All right.
What we're gonna do, and I'm using Alt and my middle mouse key to get around into the shading network. I'm going to select the ones I have plugged into color, the base color. I'm gonna select them and drag them down so they're nearby. And where it says, see how it has 2 nodes that connect? You have out alpha and out color. Remember, this side's input, this side's output. We're going to take the out alpha node and we're going to plug it into displacement right there. So where it says out alpha, plug into displacement. We don't need it in the color slot anymore because we know our texture's lined up. So where you see the color that goes out color and follow the wire up, grab that wire and break it. So you're just going to select on the wire, it'll turn bright white, pull it away, and you see it snap, snap, and let go. Just breaking that wire.
We would have done that before doing the other thing with it messed everything up.
Yeah. Now, there's one problem, and this is annoying. We have to change something on this file node still. So click the file node, and it should be our tire 1 tread, or tire tread 1. Displacement, we're going out alpha. We don't have an alpha on this picture. So it's not actually going to displace anything. What we need to do is change it to alpha is luminance. So what that's saying is, wherever the black and white data is, we're going to run that as alpha data. And that's what's going to drive the tire displacement. So make sure this box here in the file node is checked. Alpha is luminance.
We don't need to change anything else.
And that's all we got to change there. You can minimize your hypershade after that. And I'm going to do a file save. See, we're about to start rendering, and that always goes fun. So it just gives us generic ones to look into. You don't need to look because we already have these ones for our own backspace. And I don't need this as a color channel anymore, so I'm just gonna grab that wire. So now it's out of where it says out first, I'm gonna click there. And when I bring it to the node, it shows me where I can plug it in. It only has me plug it in this way.
Recyclable material.
But we're using alpha. And this is a picture map that we have alpha, so we have to tell it.
Richard, get up in here.
So hands up, if you need help with any of those steps, come by. The other thing, sorry, bring up your hypershade one more time. The other place we make adjustments to the strength of our displacement is right here in the displacement shader itself. So right now, when you click on that, the attributes, it says displacement is coming from a node, and that's our picture node. The scale, how strong that is. Probably go ahead and half that to 0.5 for now, and you can adjust this up or down later though. So there's two places to adjust the strength of the height, on the mesh itself in the Arnold options, or in the material under the scale option, okay?
We did both of them just to be safe.
It's good to kind of work them together. If you do all in one and the other, it kind of makes it wonky. I find kind of doing half and half on each gives you the best, sharpest results. All right, we need lights, because Arnold doesn't render with no lights. So choose the Arnold option, and go to lights and choose Skydome light. Arnold lights, Skydome light. It's going to make a new Skydome around our scene. You should get the options over here on the right. I want you to choose the node for color. And it's going to say what color, what node are we going to create? Go to File. And then we get to choose what file we want by clicking the folder. And let's grab that one we put in the From Teach directory. Do you guys remember that one? When we did the ocean. It was like on the beach and it had an ocean. It was cool. I think that looked good here too. Plus I don't want to pick a new one out.
That was in the video production folder, right?
No. It was in, we're going to go back to our student share, or student S, student access. So my computer, drive S, student access. Clark Anna, Clark Mert 56, and you're going to go into the From Teach directory. From Teach. And it should be called Malibu Overlook 3K. Malibu Overlook 3K.
HDR one, right?
.hdr, yes. It's going to convert it to a text. Open that one up, Malibu 3K. So now that's going to light our scene, so go ahead and do a file save. And I'm going to go to the Arnold and open Arnold Render View. And when I get my Arnold Render View open, I'm going to kind of minimize here. A little smaller. I'll hit the play button. And so it's going to start our render. It's kind of dark. Yeah, so yeah, that's why I look black, because I have nothing to reflect. So I'm going to zoom up here and check out my tread just to see how the size looks. It's really dark though. So this is definitely a darker image. So to brighten it up, what I'm going to do, I'll move my render window here. And I'm going to select the Skydome. You can use the outliner too. The outliner's open. You can choose Skydome light right here. Once you have it selected, go to where it says exposure. It's set to 0, the default. Change it to like 1 or 1.25 and see what that looks like. That should brighten up our scene considerably. Man, I think that rubber texture is just too dark. I see some displacement going on here along the edges. I should have built the light before I did this.
When we made our color before, we lowered it down and really dark. We can brought it up like
You
that.
can, but you have to do it on both textures. So let's lighten up that tire. So what I'll do then is I'm going to start with AI rubber. I'm just going to click it right here in our my hypergraph, and it's going to bring hyper shade. I did it again. You guys think correct? And oh yeah, maybe they are too dark. Where it says base color and base and then specular color, I'm just going to drag those sliders to the right very slightly. See if that looks better. It's more visible. It's a little bright, but it's better than being invisible or like possible to see. So for that new color value, I'm looking at 0.28 for the base tire, and then for the specular, I'm looking at 0.56. So I'm gonna copy those to the other rubber material because we have two, so we need to make sure they match. I'll go to AI rubber treads where it says color. I'm gonna change that one to 0.028 as my base, and for my specular color, I'm gonna change that to 0.056. Now they should match again, and let's see how that looks in the renders. Cool, I'm seeing it now. It's not too dark. Yeah. I guess it just depends on your texture too, you know. All right. You guys able to brighten up your textures a little bit, make it easier to see? So I can tell you there's already a problem though. You guys see here on my screen? Does that look like our texture?
Not really. It looks like it's going to points.
Yeah, so what's going on is we don't have enough iterations. There's not enough geometry to make it look sharp. So you know that iterations tab we adjusted earlier to 3? We're probably going to have to up it to something like 4, maybe 5. So to get back to it, you just select your tire. Make sure you're on the second tab, P cylinder shape 1. Find the subdivisions option and crank up the iterations. Just remember, every time you do that, you're going up by 4 times as much, so it's possible to overdo it. You can see already at 4, I'm getting detail, it's sharper. It's still too high though. You guys see the scales way out of whack?
So you go up or you go down?
Let's try 5 iterations. See how that looks. It's going to take a lot longer to render though when you go to 5.
I tried mine, it looks bad.
Does it look?
It looks bad.
Does
Yeah.
the detail look bad, or is it just sticking up too high? Because it looks okay here. Like, yeah, I could make out all those details really nicely.
Oh, mine looks different.
That's rendering good, yeah.
So,
It's like a weird tire.
yeah. It is definitely going to be a weird tire. I would say let's adjust our scale down.
So it would be this one.
Change that one right there, and change that value to 0.08. Change that to 0.028. And then, yeah, here.
Oh, wow.
Change that one to 0.0. Yeah, 0.056. And then you have to go to the other values. It's the same values there, 0.028.
That's okay, I'm just flat.
No, I see geometry. And then oops.
It looks like a flat tire.
Oh, so what's happening is you're displacing too strong, and so it's pulling it off the texture. So what you want to do is go back into your node.
Did you get this color first?
Placement node. Change
I
this
know,
to
right?
Did you get this color first or not? Let me see.
Yeah, it's just like,
Bring the scale down a little bit.
just like a bunch of transforming and like shaping it.
That's good.
So why
we
am
just
I
need-
tired of this color?
Because we changed some of the color value, so we need to change the side. So there's two materials, right?
Okay.
They just look identical. So we changed one, so we need to change the other one to match.
Okay.
So go ahead and close this window for a minute, and if you want, I'll help you match them up real quick. So open up our hyper shade. Bring it on us. And real quick, let me see if I can run it real fast. So here's rubber.
Mm-hmm.
And here's, so let's change this one to 0.028, so it's a little bit bright for the entire. And then we'll change the shine value. Then it decides to open. Oh, wait.
It's about to get black. You can't have ogres, but it also is a flat tire. Yeah, but I'd rather get my
Okay, so
destination.
I didn't stop it, so every time you make a change, it's trying to render it.
Right, right.
Okay. And then threads, change this
That's gonna be
value.
the blower at the other time.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
open something up right there. Change that one to 0.0586. Perfect. So we're just going to copy it to this one too. So the base color is going to be 0.028.
Is it? Oh, I'm about to
It shouldn't turn out too bad.
And then we'll change this one.
056.
I just don't like how I did my
Okay, so
design.
now they should match. The other thing I'm going to go ahead and just say right now, let's go ahead and clear everything. This one, displacement here. Let's change the scale down already because I just know it's too high. And
Black character on white background.
okay.
For what?
Like a black character on white background. Or just like profile.
Oh, no. That's what it looks like. Silhouette?
Yeah.
Doing anything?
It's gonna take a minute for render.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so it's good.
Why is my Chrome so probably angle?
Yeah,
In the background, okay.
it is. Yeah, yeah. It's big, there's a lot of picture in front of it that's picking it.
Okay. So it looks like anyone else need help setting this up?
It turned out good. It's just I think when I did my design in Photoshop, it's like, okay, now I know how it's gonna look. So.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's your first one. So go ahead and close your Arnold render view for now. I'll pause it, close it. I don't know if I got to change it. You can tweak those values if you want, but I think everyone's looked okay enough. I'm gonna save again just because I don't ever trust renders. Let's go to our bookmarks. So right here, there's some bookmarks saved in the render view. Go ahead and right click it and choose render view. And that's gonna show us this angle of the tire. And we can turn on the resolution gate or our render gate.
That's under rendering.
It's gonna be in the viewport menu. So you see the little, it kind of looks like a little tower right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And go to
Click on
render
that,
view.
Right click on it and choose render view.
All right.
And that's gonna lock our camera. And then this button right here kind of looks like a green dot on a black background, or like flag. That turns on our camera gate resolution so you can see exactly how we're rendered. Now we just need to set up our render for Mental Ray, or sorry, Mental Ray from Arnold. So right here we have the film slate with the cog. Go ahead and click that. Film slate with the cog. And we're going to change our image format from EXR to PNG. Image format PNG, we need bit or 8 bit depth. Scroll down where it says image size. Change the preset to 1080p or 1080 HD 1080. That'll give us a nice image. Click over, so that's the last thing we need to adjust in the common tab. Go to Arnold Render. The only thing I'm going to change here is the diffuse. I'll change to 3. The specular, I'll change to 3. I'll leave everything else the same. So camera 3, diffuse 3, specular 3, transmission, SSS, and volume to 2. Just leave those alone. Pop over to system. The only thing we'll change here is bucket size. Change that from 64 down to 32. And that's all we need to do there. So you can go ahead and close the render settings. Again, save your scene. Trust no one. Go to Arnold, and like we found out last class, do the render. The render option under Arnold. If we just do the scene render, we might get glitches. And go ahead and let it run. It's going to take a minute. It's going to be black because it's dividing all that geometry. It might be zoomed in a little bit too, but it's going to render that picture correctly. And give this about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, it should be done. So as soon as these are done, what I want you guys to do real quick, you can take a break for like 5 minutes or whatever. When we get back though, I want you to spend like 15, 20 minutes, make your own tire tread. And all you have to do is go in there and swap out the file and displacement and do another render. It should be real quick, okay? By like 6:40, yeah, 6:40, I want to start playing the movie, okay? The sooner we get the movie started, the sooner we're out of here. You guys go home and have your weekend, okay? It's my plan.
Can we eat during the movie?
What's that?
Can we eat during the movie?
Sure.
Okay.
Just push all the computer stuff away. No drinks away. Let's go.
Only input. Only input 5%. I love it. 5%. I'm 6.
I don't know if Jeff understood what I was
Watch
trying to
out.
say. I'm like, he wanted me to take something, and I'm like, what I would like to do is come up with a scene where I'm using, like, create something in Max, because that's all I know. But add the textures and all that stuff with the skill that I use. That's fast. And then build on that. You've never done certain stuff. I'm like, I just want to use what I know so far.
It's not just that first thought.
Some people do that. They'll build a basic mesh and then something like ZBrush or Maya.
Yeah.
Bring, or I guess Max or Maya, bring it to ZBrush.